Welcome to today's video. The first thing on my agenda is I want to get this diff welded that we're going to be putting in the Miata. So, first thing I want to do is drain any fluid that's in there. We're going to pop off the casing, then we're going to go to HP because they have a really nice, I guess just way stronger welder than what this little guy is here. I just want to make sure we definitely get some good penetration, some good heat in there. And this guy, it is a great welder, but for big things like this, I just want to make sure we got some amperage in there, you know what I mean? So, let's get this thing popped open, see if there's any fluid in there, clean her up, and take her over. So let's find out if this thing's got any oil in her. So far, doesn't look like there's anything in here. Find out in a second though. Nope. All right, we're good to start cracking this thing open. Hell yes. I'm going to put these in the pattern that I took these off over here. So there she is. Whew. A little bit of oil in there, as expected. Hell yeah. Nice. So we're going to clean this puppy out with some brake cleaner as much as possible. I'm going to try and get a little piece of steel to put in there for a nice plate to weld in as well. And then that way this thing is never going to come apart. Let's get the brake cleaner. So we're just going to go through and clean all of this up with brake cleaner so we can get in there with the welder. One thing is I have noticed that some people take this whole center out when they weld a diff, which just isn't necessary. The main reason for that is if you take this center out, is then you've got to worry about backlash and stuff and making sure that everything's lined up perfectly between the pinion down here and the crown wheel. And at the end of the day, the reason why you're welding a diff is because it's cheap and you can easily replace them. If you're worried about a bit of splatter and stuff getting in there, then, I mean, a little bit of splatter in your diff is gonna be nothing compared to if you get the backlash wrong. And I guarantee you, if you're welding a diff, you ain't worrying about backlash, so just weld it in the casing. It doesn't matter, just clean it all with brake cleaner, and when you're done, clean it again, and it'll be fine. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're gonna get in here, clean everything out, gonna get that kind of plate in there and sit it in there and make it even stronger. We should be good. You don't really need to worry about plates, but I just wanted to try with a plate and see how we go. So anyways, I'm gonna keep cleaning this. You can really see the difference. The brake cleaners clean this up. They used to be black, just like this. So I'm gonna keep hitting it with the brake cleaner, and then we'll burn it out with a lighter, and we should be good. The thing has a mind of its own and it rolls around. So I'll finish cleaning this out and I'll show you the end product. So I just finished cutting my 2 pieces of flat stock here, which I'm gonna clean up on the grinder in a second. But essentially, these slide in here with all the gears so that when we start welding everything together, you kind of like melt all the gears into that piece. And that just makes it stronger. And I guess, I mean, you can, like there are guys that swear by not using these and you can melt the gears into the casing and stuff like that. There's a lot of different ways to weld a diff, but I just prefer this one because I feel like it's like the strongest way to do it. All right, so I just got to HP and we got the diff here. And the main reason why we came here is for Big Bertha here, this big old Miller. We need something that puts out a decent amount of amperage. Want some decent penetration on this, and these guys got what we need. So, that aside, we got our plates here. So let's get into this. So I just finished welding up this side. Definitely not like the tidiest welds, especially in the back there where it was really hard to get, but I did weld all the gears together before plating it, so it should definitely hold and be totally fine in there. This is probably the roughest one here. There was a bunch of contaminants there and it just kept kind of bubbling and doing weird stuff there. So it should be fine. Now we're gonna flip it around and do the other side as well. So I've finished welding it. I nearly just touched it. It is boiling hot right now. We're gonna let that cool down, then we'll come back to it. I cleaned off as much slag as I could with the screwdriver and the hammer here, so we should be fine there. I checked the axles go in fine, they still go in fine, so we should be good. Once this thing fully cools down, we'll start assembling it all back together, and then that'll be ready to go in. But now I want to go back to Chris's shop, and I want to work on the Miata and start solving those cooling issues with the fans and the oil cooler. So I just finished putting the rear casing back onto the diff. I also installed some brand new axle seals here that came with it from Treasure Coast. So thank you so much, guys, once again. But everything is now pretty much ready to go in the car. I do want to quickly add as well, though, as you can see, I sealed the diff back up with RTV. It didn't come with a gasket on there, so I just did exactly what was previously on there, which was RTV. So I assume that these are meant to be sealed with RTV. But when using RTV, I do say this a lot, but I just want to say it again in case you haven't seen my videos where I explain it. But you need to make sure that you put the RTV on the surfaces, you sit it on top of each other, and then lightly tighten the bolts. You don't want to squeeze all that RTV out when it's still wet. So you want to let it set for a bit, about 15-20 minutes, and then tighten down all the bolts. So some RTV is left in there to actually seal and act as a gasket. Okay, because see how a little bit's still squeezed out? That's great. But because I let that set for a bit, there's actually something in there. Instead of you just putting it all on fresh and then tightening everything down right away and squeezing all that RTV out, you're most likely going to get a leak again and have to do it again. And that would suck with a diff because, you know, you don't want to have to take it all out of a car again. Anyways, so that aside, diff is all sorted out. So I do want to try and tackle the fan mod today. Unfortunately, I have lost a lot of time today. It's dark, it's rainy, but I just had a bunch of other things to get done, and yeah, these things happen. So I'm gonna look at the relay for the AC fan. I'm gonna see if I can get the wire that goes to the positive of the normal radiator fan and loop that in to then trigger the AC fan relay so that when that turns on, they both turn on. And I think we can get away with it by just adding one wire. I also need to replace that handle. That needs to happen today. Let's pop this hood. I'm in a pretty good mood, all things considered. I'm just enjoying working on this car so much because it's just something new for me, you know? Anyways, let's get this up. My new hood prop, I think is what you guys call it. I'd call it a bonnet prop, but you know. So there's a relay here that triggers the AC fan, this guy here. And that is what I want to run a wire from here to then trigger this. You can't just go and like take the positive from this and run it to there, because then that's going to do like have a lot of draw on just that one wire and possibly melt it. So definitely don't do that, guys. But we can definitely use the wire as a signal to trigger this relay over here. So I need to probably disconnect all of this and get a probe and figure out what's going on. So let me get that. It's now the next day. I decided to just go home yesterday because it was getting super late, and that just started making me tired and grumpy. And generally in those situations, I find it's always best to just go home, sleep, wake up early, and come back and give it another crack. And that's what I've done. So let me show you what's happening. So last night before I went home, I had figured out that unfortunately the relay for the AC fan is ground triggered. Also, this type of relay, when it's switched off, sends ground to the positive lead of the fan. So that kind of sucks. So I can't actually repurpose this relay and trick it to triggering off when this fan comes on. But then I also noticed something very interesting. After doing a bunch of research, I found out that when the ECU detects the AC comes on, it still also turns on the driver's side fan, so the normal radiator fan. So no matter what, when the AC is turned on, both fans turn on, not just this one. So what that meant was I could essentially grab the power source from this relay and tap into it and use that with my own relay that's being triggered by this fan output to turn this fan on. And still, regardless, when you turn the AC on, both fans will come on, and when the ECU says, hey, the engine's a bit too warm, let's turn on the fans, it'll turn both fans on instead of just one fan. So there you go. So I'm using this little small wire here as the trigger wire. This is the positive wire that's going to go to the fan, so you can see it's a much bigger gauge to handle the amperage of the fans. And then I got to figure out a ground source on this, and then the trigger, which, sorry, no, the trigger is this one. I need a ground one, and then I just need the constant 12 volt or the switching 12 volt, which I'm going to pull from this one, which is what the AC fan was originally using. So all in all, it's actually pretty easy and simple to do. If you've ever worked with relays, you should understand this, but for anyone that doesn't know, I know relays can be a bit confusing, but it's very, very simple. This here is a coil, which is numbers 85 to 86. Essentially on one end, you need to give it you can use either ground or positive here as a switch. But essentially one end needs to be ground and one end needs to be positive, and either one of those can be your trigger. So whether the ground comes on, that would turn the coil on, which would then flick the switch, or the ground is solid and always on, and the positive point to the coil is what switches on and off. So whether or not you're triggering that with the ECU or a switch inside, that's what would trigger the coil to charge up and then flick the switch, which is where you'd have positive coming off the battery, going to the fan, or whichever other device you have, which are pins 30 and 87. 87 being the fan, 30 being the battery power source. So I hope that makes sense. I hope my camera wasn't out of focus for all of that. But yeah, pin 30 is your battery, pin 87 is your device. So I hope that makes sense. Very simple breakdown of a relay. There's a bunch of other confusing ones, like, you know, more in-depth ones out there and stuff like that. But relays are really great, and I really recommend using these instead of just running straight power to a switch and stuff, because switches do overheat and overload, so be careful with that stuff. So anyways, I'm gonna finish wiring this up, and then we're gonna test it, and we should be good. So I finished wiring everything up, and temporarily what I've gone and done is I've just kind of got these wires here. I haven't taped them all up or sealed them yet, and I've just put the relay here. This is probably where I'm going to mount the relay, because I'm actually also planning to mount the catch can here in the front, and then this is going to go here, and there'll be a venting little pod filter there too. So this is where the catch can's probably going to live, and I just want to make sure that everything's going to go really nice here with this relay, so it's nice and easy and serviceable. But yeah, that aside, I've just kind of got the wires sitting here loosely and kind of taped up and just pulled away from any of the pulleys down there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the car up to temperature. Actually, I think what I'm going to use is the diagnostics port. I believe I can trip the temperature sensor here, which I think is TFA. So if I ground out TFA pin, that should trigger the fans to turn on. Let me go get a paper clip or something. So from what I understand, it should be 1, 2, 3, these two pins here. Hey! That's cool, both relays are clicking on. That's good. So there you guys go. If ever you need to test your fans without like bringing the engine up to temperature, it's just these two pins here, the TFA and ground. Look at that. Hell yeah, that's what we want to see. Awesome. So there you guys go. Really simple twin fan mod. I know that I did a bit of research online, and a lot of people were just saying to run these fans in parallel, but you got to understand these fans draw a lot of power, and you can't just run it off one line from over here, because then you're gonna essentially, you will slow down the speed of this fan when you hook this one up, so you're not getting the full pull that you should. Doing this is really, really easy. Just all you have to do is get a little probe kit like this to work out where the constant 12 volts is in the AC fan relay. You tap into that wire to the relay, and then everything else is right here at the fans. You get your ground from the fan plug for this fan, you get your trigger wire for the relay from the positive of this fan, so that when this fan turns on, that's what triggers the relay, and then the fan then just plugs into this. So it's really simple and easy to do. Please don't be scared of relays. They really do save you, and it's just a much proper way of doing everything, and it's going to save you in the long run, because instead of you know, getting an engine fire from burning out wires and overloading them and stuff, you're just going to pop a relay or pop a fuse. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're done. We got our twin fan mod done now. I'm going to work on drilling a hole in this fan shroud and putting a couple nut inserts in there so that we can now mount our catch can. So that's going to be going there like that. And I think it's going to look pretty good all in all. I'm pretty pumped about this. Like everything up here in the front like that, there's so much space there, why not use it? Just finished mounting the catch can, and I have to say I was a little bit skeptical before about mounting it here because I've never really seen anyone mount a catch can there before, but I kind of dig it. I think I use the space really well, and I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. I kind of like it there. I think it looks really sick, but yeah, let me know in the comment section. That aside, these filters, guys, the company that makes these is owned by K&N. So do a bit of research online and you'll find exactly what I did. I really don't think there's anything wrong with this filter. Yeah, I mean, it was like a $50 filter, so I don't think it's really like a really crap quality, like $10 one off eBay. So yeah, maybe do a bit of research online. I could be wrong, but from what I saw, K&N owns the company that makes those. So I don't know. Anyways, that aside, kind of dig this, and I think we're gonna leave the video for today here. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Once again, just getting a whole bunch of things kind of buttoned up on the Miata. We're getting so close to finally handing the keys over to the new owner, and I'm honestly beyond stoked just to see their reaction and stuff like that. And being able to like touch things up on the car is making it kind of like just feel that so much more legit of a build. You know, I always say this, but it is always the little things that count the most generally. And that is totally the case. Just seeing everything kind of tie together and come together all at the end here like this, like just seeing that catch can and the piping and how nice it looks to me, I'm like, damn, this thing's really looking good. And yeah, I guess tomorrow's video is probably going to be me doing that oil cooler kit, and I'm really not looking forward to trying to figure out a neat, nice, pretty way of running all the lines and stuff for it, just because there's not much space. So I think we're going to have to sacrifice some messy looking lines for making it work, which for having substantial cooling I think is worth it in my mind. So I'll just try to make my OCD ignore that for now. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Smash that like button, leave us a comment, and I will see you all in tomorrow's video. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already. I know that over 50% of you guys still aren't subscribed who are watching. So definitely, please hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on. It means a lot. You guys have no idea how much that actually helps us out, especially right now with what's going on with AdSense on YouTube. Things are definitely, I'm just gonna be honest with you, it's a struggle right now to make money on the platform. So with that, thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace out. Ciao, Mata.